We're here for another episode of Steel and Whiskey. Special guest with me here today, we have Ricky Horton. How you doing, Ricky?
Doing well. Hope you are.
Right, very good, very good. Ricky's, I think, kind of has a little bit of a unique story and is in a unique position here now within our the steel industry for us. So, Ricky, you want to give us a little idea of your background, your experience, where you're at today, how you got there? Yeah.
Yeah, love to. I worked in the steel industry since 92, I think, is when I started. Worked at the same steel shop. We were structural and miscellaneous fabricators, and worked there for close to 30 years. I think somewhere in that range. And while I was there, I did. Title was actually had to do with finance, as vice president of finance. That was about 25% of what I did. I kind of just migrated towards the shop and some of the processes and a lot of, just the systems surrounding what we did. And one of the big things was, at the time, it was Fab Suite when we purchased it, and it was one of my major responsibilities was implementing that and making sure that it worked smoothly, and we used it to a very, very high level. And so, long story short, in 2019, I had fabricators call me a lot and say, we hear you guys use PowerFab pretty well, and what does that look like? Because we've had it a while and it's not working for us. What's that look like? And so I'd talk with them, have some of them come by, and they would come by the shop and see us and chat with us a bit. And I think the last year I was there, we had 20 different fabricators that contacted me. So I started getting this idea, hey, nobody's out there helping any fabricators do this. And I know when I started, I struggled with it too, just getting it implemented. And, long story short, two of those fabricators became my first two clients. So I took the plunge, jumped out, and started helping fabricators just implement PowerFab, helping them through some of the struggles that they have. Some of the things that I could empathize, because I was in a shop and I did the same thing and had some struggles. And so because of that and what I learned, I'm able to help them, do what they do a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. So in getting PowerFab in place. So it's kind of what I've been doing for the past 4.5 years. Just absolutely love it. Travel across the country. I get to go in a different shop every week, which is really, really cool. I don't care what machinery's in the shop, I just love going in a shop. And so it's really cool.
That's a great part of the job here. I probably don't get to travel quite as much as you, probably not in quite as many shops as you, but that's also one of my very favorite things about what it is that I get to do when I get to go to those fabricators. And it's always interesting to see, everybody's got a different idea of how to make their shop as efficient as possible, right? And it's different for this guy versus that guy. There's always, the layout, the space, what's the building footprint look like? How are they going to fit different equipment? How do they fit it in there to all be the most efficient? So it's
there are no secrets to it either. There are a lot of shops that think there are, but there's no secrets. Everybody's doing the same thing. It's kind of the same equipment, and it's cool.
It's always funny too to hear. Some shops are kind of just like, you ask them how they got everything figured out, laid out. They're like, well, hell, I don't know. We didn't have anything in here, 10 years ago, and we bought this and threw it there. We bought that, we threw it there. We just found wherever we could put space, wherever we had space, that's where it went, Others are very, very precise and well thought out how they're doing it to maximize efficiency. So
I've seen some that were kind of like where I was. Exactly what you described. Well, we bought another piece of equipment. There's a hole over there. Put it in place, and we had equipment going every which way through the shop, no flow, And then finally, we kind of reorganized it, redid it. I got a client up in Brooklyn. First time I went up there, they said they had really tight shop, and they had equipment going everywhere. And so during COVID, they completely reorganized everything to just make it a flow. So every shop's different. It's cool. It's fun watching them. So
It is though, like you said, that's probably, I would say that's one of my favorite parts of the job too, is to get in the shop and be right there with it and in the action, how things are getting done. So
Yeah.
So well, I'm always drinking on steel and whiskey, so I got a glass of whiskey here. I don't know. It's a holiday week, well, short week because of a U.S. holiday here, Memorial Day. So sounds like you're kind of on vacation this week. You were gracious enough to take an hour or so here, spend some time with me. So definitely appreciate you taking that time. Are you drinking with me, or you're not a drinker?
I got coffee with me. I'm not traveling with any whiskey, so coffee's more my taste anyway. So
fair enough.
It's Black Rifle coffee though. If you know anything about coffee, I love Black Rifle and kind of what they stand for.
So Black Rifle is one of the go-tos in my household as well. I would say so. More recently, this might be a little off topic, but that's all right. More recently, I've kind of gotten into grinding my own beans.
Really?
So I've been going to a couple different places here in town, trying some different stuff. So it's amazing how much the fresh ground beans change the flavor.
For sure.
So, it's good
stuff. Are you roasting it as well?
No, I'm not. I'm not going that far yet. No.
I tried that. It didn't go so well, so I gave up on it. So we'll just buy it. So.
That's and pay for the convenience of things sometimes, right? So very good. Well, hey, you know what? I'll drink my whiskey. You have your coffee. You know,
cheers.
Nothing wrong with that. So cheers. So good. It's a good story here that you got. So you're on your own now, right? You're running your own business, not affiliated with the fabricator where you worked for a long time, nothing like that, right? So then tell me a little bit. So you're a busy guy. Sounds like you're on the road all dang near all year, right? I mean, when we were trying to schedule this thing, you were like, hey, we got to schedule this like 4 or 5 months out because I'm so busy. Where are you getting your business from? How are people hearing about you and that?
When I started out, it was probably 20-25% word of mouth. Software company was giving my name out, other people that knew of me, and then honestly a lot of it came from LinkedIn. Just having a presence on LinkedIn, doing posting on LinkedIn, and people sort of started seeing me, and so a lot of it came from there. Now it's mostly word of mouth. Most like I'll have people, like I had somebody this week hit me up and say, hey, I was at a Gerdau meeting with some other fabricators and your name popped up. So that's what happens most of the time. And so you're right, it keeps me on the road. I think last year I was on the road 46 weeks out of the year, I think, and usually leaving on a Sunday night, come back Friday night. So it's lots and lots of travel. My kids are grown, so it makes it easier. In fact, one of my kids works at he's not a kid anymore, but one of my sons works at the shop I used to work in too. So I still keep in touch with those guys. But it's a lot of travel, keeps me busy, but I absolutely love what I do. It's a passion. So
good, very good. Well, I cannot be on the road 46 weeks out of the year because I got 8 and 10-year-old at home yet. So
you don't want to do that.
Right now we're nonstop playing baseball at the ball field all the time. So it's fun, but busy enough doing that, let alone traveling all the time.
That's the important stuff. You got to do that.
For sure. So I'm sure you, as you're going to these shops, we talked about it, everybody's got a different setup, not with just their space and their equipment in the shop, but everybody has a different setup for, what softwares they're using, do they got detailing in-house? Are they outsourcing detailing? what are those detailers using? Obviously, I'm pretty biased towards SDS2. So that's what we'll
Yep.
focus on a little bit here today. And what I'd really kind of like our audience to get today is kind of just some of the common things you come across with, getting information between SDS2 and PowerFab. What are some of the common problems that people run into? General tips like, hey, if you do this, you can set the software up to do this thing over here or whatever. I think one of the very common, or one of the things people don't realize is both softwares are very flexible, right? So you can set up and tweak different settings and such, and that can cause confusion and headache sometimes. But if you take the time to understand it and know what settings here, get them to match up, then those things start humming. But so curious from your perspective and your experience, what are some of those common things that people typically run across?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it really doesn't matter I won't say it doesn't matter the detailing software. It doesn't matter SDS or the other guys, right? So from a file perspective, the fabricator shouldn't see a difference. So the SDS works flawlessly with it. And you were mentioning how there's a lot of options and a lot of things that SDS and PowerFab can do, which is awesome from a flexibility standpoint. The only issue with that, and I tell fabricators this all the time about PowerFab, is there is lots of flexibility in how you can use it. There's lots of ways you can use it. Lots of you can do several things. You can do some things multiple ways in the system. The only issue with that is when you're trying to learn all those different ways, there's more to figure out because it is so flexible. But once you get it, man, it is awesome. And it's the same way when we're talking about getting files from SDS into PowerFab. I've been on a trip for a while to get rid of to try to get everybody away from KISS files.
It's funny you say that. There are, as much as we try to push people to progress and move forward, boy, it's shocking how many are still using just regular old KISS file. But it's solid. It's tried and true.
It is.
Anyway, sorry.
It does work. And there's multiple ways to get data into PowerFab. KISS files is one of them. Even Excel if you want. I've done that before. Excel, but then you've got the preferred method, which is the PFXS file, PowerFab Exchange SDS. That's the preferred method, and like you say, the KISS file, it works great and can work. It's a dead file type and it's not being developed any further. And there's a better way of doing things. So when we started making this progression away from KISS files to like the PFXS file, which has XML file in it, for those that don't know, it's got an XML file in it, which is I like to describe it as a KISS file on steroids. And then it's got all the drawings in it, all the CNC files in it, and that just comes in one shot, which is what makes it so much easier. And at SDS, my biggest battle is getting the detailers to know how to produce the file for the way that the fabricator wants it. And that's really my biggest issue. Once the detailer can produce that file, it's simple for the fabricator and they love it. And you guys have done a really good job of documenting that process. I think that was James Schwartz. I think he was the mastermind behind that.
We can absolutely credit James for that. He's done a ton of work, put a lot of effort towards that. So if James is listening, thank you, James. Good job.
And thank you for fielding my calls sometimes, James. There's sometimes I'll call James. It's like, James, I'm at a fabricator. We are having trouble. Can you help me? And he'll call the detailer if he needs to and fix them
Yeah.
up. He does a great job with that. But you guys have good documentation on how to produce that file, which, like I say, that's the biggest battle I fight is just getting it right because the the battle is the detailer doesn't really know what the fabricator wants. The fabricator really doesn't know what the detailer wants. And the fabricator can't tell the detailer how to do it because he doesn't know SDS. So it's it's this back and forth battle. And I tell fabricators all the time, get on there with the detailer and let the detailer watch you import it because it's eye opening.
Yeah.
And but
What-
you guys have done a good job with that.
Yeah. And I think for me, a lot of times, it's funny how many things, I guess, are interesting, how many things always come back to communication, right?
Mhm.
So no matter how much technology we implement, no matter how great the tools are and all that, everything usually just boils back to communication. So
Yep.
in this case, like you're talking about, the detailer doesn't know what the fabricator wants. The fabricator doesn't know how to, he doesn't know what the detailer can do or is
Yeah.
capable of doing with their software or whatever. But if the two would communicate,
Yeah.
even in a virtual meeting and
Yep.
talk a little bit through, hey, I need this or I need this, and hey, my software is capable of this and this, whatever, then they can come to an agreement and
Yep.
understanding. But so for me, many times when I get involved with that, the detailer is just saying, "Well, I don't know what he wants." Well,
Yep.
I mean, you didn't talk to him. You're doing work for this guy, but you didn't
Yeah.
talk to him and ask him questions about what his requirements are and
Yep.
such. So, um, yeah, a lot of times it's not the software that's the problem. It's
Yeah.
nobody talked and communicated, got on
Yep.
the same page to figure it out.
Well, and I'll sometimes go to a client for the second or third time, whatever, I'm pushing this. You really need to use this file type. It's a better way to go. And they're like, well, the detailer doesn't send it to me. I'm like, well, did you ask them?
Yeah.
You got to ask. I haven't met a detailer yet that just says flat out no.
Yeah.
Just they're willing to do what you want. Just you gotta, like you say, you got to communicate, and it is just truly a better file type for everybody. It's easier for the detailer. It's easier for the fabricator.
Yeah.
It's way better on revisions as well.
Yep.
It can get rid of the pieces that were changed, whereas KISS files don't do. I don't know. I could talk about that a long time and bore everybody to death, but
Well, I'd like to go back just to point out to everybody. So there's been some confusion, I think, amongst people about the PFXS
Mhm.
file and what that is. That's a mouthful to say.
Yeah.
But so just for the people listening, just to make sure everybody understands, it's a simple zip file is all it is. It just has a different extension. The extension is PFXS instead of zip. So it's a zip file and it contains all that information that Ricky was talking about. The XML file, the drawings and such are all contained within there also. So
Yeah.
it's not like super magic or anything like that. It's not a complete black box. It's a zip file with, the information that's necessary. So
Yep.
yeah. And the XML is, you mentioned revisions. KISS files can't really handle revisions, right? So if
Yep.
you're using KISS, there's just not enough information in there because it can't, the necessary information isn't there to tie that this piece is, this piece in the KISS file when it comes across. So that's one of the many reasons why
Yep.
the XML format is much better. It includes the GUIDs that can match up and say, oh, hey, I'm the matching GUID. This is my piece. I've changed. I can update that over here in the PowerFab. So
And
yeah.
because of the GUIDs, it will link to the model.
Yep.
When you use the model viewer and upload an IFC file, it just links to it. So you can colorize the model without any issue. KISS file will not do that natively. There's a way in PowerFab to try to make the KISS file work, and it works sometimes. I'll say a lot of the time, but a lot of times it doesn't, and it's just sketchy. And so, yeah, it's just a better way to go all the way around. You know, if you want to get all the drawings into PowerFab otherwise without doing this, you've got to do multiple import. I got to do an import for a assembly drawing for all the assembly drawings. I got to do an import for the single part drawings, the gather sheets. I got to do an import for the erection drawings, and if they're different rev levels, that adds another import for the different rev levels. So it's really a pain otherwise in PowerFab. With this file, it just comes in.
So that's if you're using the KISS file, you got to do the multiple imports. But with the
Yes.
XML, one shot,
Yep,
brings it all in. You're good to go, right? Yep.
it's the easy button. Yeah. I tell everybody all the time, there's no easy button. Well, this is one easy button.
Well,
It is one way to do it.
but it's easy if you communicate it up front with the detailer and fabricator to get on the same page before you send the file into the easy button, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and you were asking for some of the pitfalls for the detailers out there.
Yeah.
If a fabricator says I need an XML file, need to clarify, are you wanting just an XML file, or are you wanting the PowerFab export, which is there's a PowerFab export within SDS that outputs that PFXS file. And I've gone down that road a lot.
Yep.
Fabricator asks for an XML file, and that's what they get. They get an XML file and nothing else, and that's not an improvement. So
yeah, and
be
so
clear.
Yeah, again, to explain a little further, XML is it's a generic file format, so it's extended markup language, and really it's a way to organize information in a file in a specific way. So it's like, hey, here's a tag, here's the information that belongs to that tag, and then it can go on and down to different levels and such. But it could really be organized in any way that somebody chooses. So whoever you're transferring that XML information to, you've got to coordinate, and the softwares have to be able to understand what information is in the XML file, what the tags are, how it's organized in order to bring it in correctly. So saying XML, well, okay, what type of XML? What's the format? What's this? What software are you going to? Is very important. I've taken, I can't tell you how many phone calls I've taken here over the years, and hey, I just need an XML file.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you need an XML file for?
Yeah.
Well, I got to send it to the fabricator. Okay, well, what's your fabricator want to do with this XML file? What software are they going to? This and that. And then finally you get to, and they're going to PowerFab or whatever. And, oh, well, okay, then you got to use the PowerFab export over here. So, yeah, careful. I absolutely agree. I've ran into that so many times. Hey, just need an XML file. No, let's
what do you do?
Clarify here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it was funny, but before there was a PFXS file, it was just a zip file. And so, I'd have clients that would send the detailer a sample of that file that had XML in it and drawings and CNC. Well, what they would get back is the detailer would just export an XML file, export all the drawings, export all the NC1 files, and then zip it up himself and send it to him. Well, that wouldn't work either because it wasn't the PowerFab export. Right. And so therefore, now we have PFXS, so it looks like you can't really mess with it, though you can. But
I probably shouldn't have told everybody it's just a zip file. Then everybody's gonna go start messing with it and screw up their exports. Don't do that. It's organized in a specific way so that it just works, right? The easy button, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Yep.
We've done a lot of work, a lot of coordinating with the PowerFab guys to make sure that we've got on the same page and organized the same way so that it does work well. So
well, you got some guys over at PowerFab that really used to be at SDS, I think. So you work closely with those guys. So.
Yep, one of the main developers there at PowerFab. She was with SDS2 for a while. That was quite a while back, but
it's been a while. Yeah,
still maintain a good relationships across there and with those people. So I suppose it's a good good lesson to never burn bridges, right?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
So
fun.
yeah. So what else? What other tips and things do you got for people doing this stuff?
Well, yeah, one thing I said before was get your detailer on there, and I kind of did it said it in passing. I think that's really important to me. Yeah, normally fabricators are working with detailers in an extended relationship. It's not a, hey, I'll use you this time and then I'm done, right? Because
Yeah.
it's an extended relationship. So I really encourage a lot of fabricators, get your detailer on there and show them all these files and what you're doing with it, because it just opens their eyes.
Mhm.
And I think the detailers ought to be asking for it too. So, hey, let me sit with you. Let me show me what
Yeah.
you're doing with this, so I'll understand what's happening when you import these files. But I think the fabricators need to be more clear as well as far as what they want. Too many don't have really good detailing standards.
Mhm.
So, and it seems to change from one project manager to another.
Yeah.
So it's well worth the effort for the fabricator to say, here's what I want for an ABM. Here's what I want for a release for fab. Here's what I want to get the drawings out for approval. These are the file types I want. It needs to be clear. Like going back to what you said before, communication. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it is just huge. And so
Do, do you find that a lot of fabricators have well documented standards or no?
no.
No.
Unfortunately, no. And if they do have them, um, it's like I got a document and I intended to use it, but nobody really looks at it anyway. So therefore, it becomes a dead document. That's kind of what I see. But the ones that do it well, it's a lot. It's an active document rather than a dormant document that
Yeah.
they did,
Th-
7, 8 years ago.
yeah. I think that's some of the problems that I've ran into or I've seen is the ones that I do run across that are documented.
Yeah.
Well, the document is honestly, it's probably more than 7, 8 years old. It's more like 10 or 15 years old, and
Yeah.
then they've already implemented new software, new processes, and different stuff, but just never had the
Hmm.
time or the resources, the
Yeah.
people to go update the document,
Yeah.
their standards based on their new processes and
Yeah.
equipment and software that they got. So generally,
Yep.
when you get those standards, it's like, well, yeah, this
Yeah.
is more of a loose guideline than a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
standard.
Yeah. But well, and that's a big part of it is the lack of resources, because
Yeah.
I don't know a fabricator that isn't busy and that isn't growing, to be quite honest with you.
Yep.
And so they're all running thin. So they're like, yeah, I need to update this, but till I do, here's what I want, detailer,
Yep.
and so they're all busy, 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 and
Mhm.
honestly, that's another reason why they probably there's been less people that have switched from a KISS file over to
Yeah.
the PFXS, is just because, okay, cool, someday I'm going to look into that, but today I got to get this in the shop.
Yep. Yep.
And there's always back and forth when you make that change in order to make it happen. And so it does take a little bit of slowing down and, hey, let's figure this out.
Mhm.
That's easy to say. I worked in a shop for a lot of years, and I know how it goes. It's like, we got this stuff needs to get to the shop. Forget that stuff. We'll get to it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's always a problem.
I know the feeling here also, so I
Yep,
totally can relate. Yeah. Yeah.
yep, for
And
sure.
what I also find interesting, just I mean, kind of talking about the communication between the detailers and the fabricators. I find a lot of times that the fabricators aren't always communicating properly with the detailers, and that really
Hmm.
puts the detailer in a hard spot a lot of times because the fabricator will say, "Hey, we installed this new equipment last month. Give me the files for it." And they're going,
Hmm.
What do you mean new equipment? Like, what is
Yeah.
this? What is this equipment? What's it capable of? What kind of files does it need? This and that. So we
Yeah.
always get those phone calls a lot of times where the detailer's scrambling, going, I don't know how to do this. The fabricator just told me I had to do this thing, and
And it has to be in the shop tomorrow.
yeah, but it has to be done right away, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Right.
technology is really changing the way that we detail, not just the way we fabricate, but because technology changes the way that we fabricate, that in turn changes the way that we detail, and the requirements of
Yeah.
the detailer to provide to the fabricator, and that
Yeah.
really puts a lot of stress on the detailers a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure, because it's ever changing, right? And it's fast paced. So
Yep.
yeah, that's a bit well, and like PowerFab is changing too. So like within the last year, for an ESTA model, if you're going to do an ESTA model, so you're going to do a model in SDS and then import it in for estimating, that whole thing changed. That
Mhm.
was all of a sudden it went from everybody bringing in a KISS file to I want an IFC file.
Yep.
Well, it changed for the ABM as well. It went from KISS file as the norm to I want an IFC file, because now everybody has 2, 3, 4 revisions to ABMs, and an IFC file will actually tell you what those changes are. And so it's an ever-changing thing that your development has to keep up with. And so yeah, it's a fun game, but it's progressing fast.
Yeah, that's just it too. Faster than ever. I mean,
Yeah.
So I started here with SDS2 in 2006, and
Hmm.
at that time it was mostly drawings and
Yeah.
drawings and DSTV files, right? Right,
Yeah.
KISS files also, but it was, and it was like that was king, and yeah, things were moving and changing, progressing, but it was pretty slow. Now the requirements are, drawings are not completely an afterthought, but a lot of
Yeah.
times they're a little bit of an afterthought. It's more about like, hey, feed my
It's the
robot,
data.
feed my PowerFab this XML file or IFC file or whatever, and it's just
Hmm.
continuously changing and improving, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough to keep up with, that's for sure.
Well, and that brings up one of the challenges um, with when I bring in a file from SDS. Sometimes you guys do something that is different, in that the detailer, and I don't understand it fully because I don't know SDS, right?
Mhm.
But I think you guys can allow the modification of the bill of materials on the drawing.
Yeah.
And so communicating to the detailers that really isn't best practice now, because like you say, it's really changing from the drawing isn't as critical as I will hesitate to say it's not as critical. It always is. It
Still
is
important. Yeah, still very
it
important.
is,
We can
because you
agree
got
there.
to go by the drawings. That's what's approved, right?
Mhm.
But the data coming in is huge,
Yep.
right? And so if the data coming in doesn't match what's in the bill of material on the drawing, well, it changes it on the import to make sure that it matches the bill of material. But you get a message on the import that says, "Hey, this doesn't seem to match," and what essentially it is just doesn't match what's in the model. And in your documentation, you do a really good job of telling the detailer, say, do that as little as possible, because it really confuses the detailer on the import.
Yep.
And so one thing I like about your documentation, you say, here's what you need to do in the model to make the import and the output so much better and easier for PowerFab
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's awesome, because
Yeah.
a lot of times it just focuses on the export.
Mhm.
And so that's good.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think there's good reason to let people modify the bill of
yeah,
material, and it
yep,
makes things very flexible, very
mhm,
easy. It was absolutely necessary, back before a
yep,
lot of this technology and that existed.
yep,
Um, not really as much reason today to modify it as there was 20 years ago.
Yep.
But as you can imagine, a lot of detailers have been at this for a long, long time. And I would say in
Yeah.
many cases, old habits die hard. And it's just, continuously training and teaching and helping all of our clients grow and understand new methods it's a constant thing that we have to keep up with also is the training and the education. So
and another pitfall too, which is not unique to you guys, but another pitfall is the having the shape and the grade match what's in the fabricator's database. And I think you guys have I think James Schwartz was showing me this one time when I was on a call with him. I think you guys have some setup screen where you can say a wide flange, I want to be this shape. I want it to be a W or whatever, in order to match it to what the fabricator has. And once again, it goes back to communication where the fabricator needs to communicate with the detailer to say, here's what I'm looking for. If you can make this work, it makes it so much easier. Because on the import, they can modify some of that, on the import and make it happen, but it's just another hiccup that can happen, So that's always shapes and grades are always an issue. So.
And that's what, we talked at the beginning a little bit. I mentioned, both pieces of software are extremely flexible. So, SDS2 gives everybody the ability to add and modify grades however they like. Same with the shapes. You could call a W21 by 44. You could call it a banana if you want, right? You shouldn't, but the point is it can be done, and that'll potentially cause problems then on the other side if the softwares aren't talking. Then it's like the softwares are using different language and talking different languages because it's, hey, I don't know what this grade is. I've never seen this before. So same with piece mark, like your prefixes for your piece marks and your descriptions on your material. All that can be modified. And it's all because going back to everybody's different. Every fabricator's different. There's different standards, different preferences, different ways of doing stuff. So, the more we try to standardize, the less we actually standardize, it feels like sometimes.
I think you're right. And like you say, every fabricator is different. So the poor detailer's like, wait, what did they want? Every single one seems to want something different, which I get and I understand because everybody operates different. I mean, I've been in right around 100 shops since I've started doing this, and there's a flavor where everybody does it differently, but everybody, even though we're all still doing the same thing, right? But there's a flavor of difference in every single shop, and so which makes it interesting. But it really boils down to what data they need to do what they're doing, right, in the most efficient manner. And so everybody's a little bit different, which is a challenge. So
so a little bit different, lighter note, maybe, right? So you said you've been in around about 100 shops since you started doing this, huh? So what's maybe not your favorite shop, but what's the favorite location? What's the most interesting location or favorite location you've got to go to?
So before I started doing this, I basically didn't travel unless I went to like NASCC show or something like that, right? That was my travel for work, Then I went to all travel, right? So my travel to the western side of the United States was like not much past, say, Tennessee or something, right? I live in North Carolina. So if you couldn't tell from the accent, So, but if I look back over the past 4.5 years and I'm the most amazed by a certain state, it's probably Utah. I love Utah, man. I don't know. It's just gorgeous.
Absolutely is. And some of the people here will laugh when they hear me tell this story, I think, but So when I first started traveling for work
Yep.
here, it was shortly after I moved into sales. I was in sales for a while
Yeah.
here. So shortly after I moved into our sales department, we were doing these road shows for SDS2 where we'd go around the country. We'd host them at different Top Golf locations.
Yep.
And one of them we went to one time was Salt Lake City. It was the first time I ever got to go to Utah, and it was like I just fell in love with Utah.
Oh, yeah.
It absolutely gorgeous. And since then I've got to go to like Park City, down to St. George, made the drive from Salt Lake City to St. George.
Yep.
Utah is beautiful country. Yeah.
I've got clients around the St. George area. I've got I think 3 around there. And so, anytime I go out there, I generally plan the next week. Maybe I take off and my wife flies out and we'll hit all the, the national parks down there. But I got a client in Salt Lake City, which you probably know real well because they use you guys. But they sent me one time down to their miscellaneous shop in Las Vegas. They're like, just drive down there. And I'm like, man, I got to drive all that way. Well, I didn't know the drive out that was ahead of me. I'm just in awe as I'm driving. It's amazing. I love it out there. So
yeah. So
I don't know. I want to move out there, but it's
well,
it's not.
I don't think it'd be so bad to move
It
out
wouldn't.
there.
It wouldn't.
I think it would be all right. So you got the mountains right there. There's all sorts of activities and that. I don't know if you're a golfer. I've got to golf there a couple of times.
Really?
So up in Park City, and then I believe it's Wasatch. It's called just on the. I believe it's on kind of the south end there a little bit. But like in the mountain, and just right there, tucked away in the mountains, it's absolutely beautiful. So pretty lucky. I consider myself pretty lucky that I've gotten to travel the way I have for my career, because had it not been for that, heck, I'd probably never gone to Utah. I probably would have never even considered going there. So consider myself pretty lucky.
A lot of people in the United States are like, when they go on a big vacation, they're going to go out of the country. But a lot of people don't even know what we have in this country, my middle son did a thing one summer where when he was in high school, there's an organization in Charlotte that they take kids on a bus tour across the country and back. It takes them a month or so. And their whole thing is people don't know what we got in the United States. And they hit everything across the country, all the big spots, and it's pretty amazing. So it's fun. So
I fully admit, until I was about 28, 30 years old or so, I had no idea what we had in the U.S. either. So it took, I was still am like Nebraska will always be home for me no matter what. I love traveling, and I'm thankful that I've got to travel around to a lot of different places, but I'll always call Nebraska home. I'll always enjoy coming home. So just glad I've got to see and understand and experience a lot more of the world now than I ever had. So
it's fun. Traveling itself isn't always a joy, all the plane delays and cancellations, but hey, once you get there to the destination, it's great. So.
I've had a few of those rough trips myself, so fully understand that too. But.
Well, it's Memorial Day week, and so I was in Kansas City about 3 weeks ago, and I got to the airport, supposed to come home, and it was one of those flights, delay. And here I am 4 hours later, and I'm supposed to be home, and I'm angry, I'm mad. And I look out on the tarmac, and I actually put this on my LinkedIn site, my LinkedIn page yesterday, I think. Well, lights come up, and then a hearse comes up, and actually the plane that flew in to pick me up, they coffin came down, draped an American flag, and there's a Navy guy that had been killed. And so it made my delay seem trivial, So I've never seen that in an airport before, but it can be challenging traveling sometimes. But that
Yeah.
was a new experience traveling
Yep.
with a delay. So
Put
yeah.
things in perspective a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be tough. It can be challenging. It's also very fun and rewarding at it.
It is.
A lot of times too. So
Yeah. Well, and people that travel, like we were saying earlier, you get to go in all these shops if you're in this industry.
Yep.
It's just the coolest thing in the world. I tell people all the time, the first day I'm there, I need to go out into your shop and get a feel for how you operate and everything. It'll make setting up the software easier. Truthfully, I just want to see their shop.
Well,
not really. It does help me, but
that was always kind of the way I was when I was in so a little different role now. So I go visit shops for a different reason now. But when I was in sales, it was typically like, hey, come out and give us a demo and talk to us about what you got and all that. And it would always be like, hey, we're done with the business side of things. Like, what's your shop look like? What's out there? What kind of equipment you got? Like, can we go see it? Where it'd be hard hat. Let's throw some glasses on. Let's go. So
and everybody likes showing their shop off anyway, right? So
cool. Everybody brags about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they should.
For sure.
So,
something to be proud of. So,
yep.
For sure.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right, Ricky. Well, I don't know. Any parting words of wisdom for the fabricators out there implementing PowerFab, or for the detailers, working with the fabricators implementing PowerFab? I think we covered a pretty good range of it.
Yep.
Any final words of wisdom?
Just determine early the files you want to use. There's a variety of files you can use. I mean, if it's me, I'll put it this way. I'll give you the file. I'll give you the preferred files for everything, and just make sure everybody communicates and you know how to do it and try it out. But for an ABM, I'd want an IFC file. For a release for fab, I'd want the PFXS file. For a out for approval drawings, I want the PFXS file as well. Yep. And then get an IFC issued to you at least as often as you get a release for fab. That way it'll work with the data, but talk with each other, and it all works well as long as everybody's on the same page. So, but it works well. Get educated on what you can do with it, right?
Yeah,
you know how that goes. Yeah,
absolutely. Educate yourself. You can buy the most expensive software in the world or the fanciest thing, but if you don't learn how to use it, what it's capable of, it's not going to be useful to you. So,
stop pushing the Ferrari. Get in it and drive it.
Yep, exactly. So, very good. Well, I appreciate your time, especially on vacation week here. So thank you for taking a little time to spend with me here during your vacation. And
enjoyed it.
If you find your way to Lincoln or close to Lincoln, even Omaha or something, it's pretty close by here, pretty short drive. So if you find yourself anywhere in Nebraska, you're not too far. So look us up and make sure you stop by.
I'll stop in and we'll do this live then, right?
Hey, sounds
in
perfect.
Person.
Sounds perfect. I would love to do it again. So
good talking with you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.